So, hello everyone. My name is Aditya Gohil, and my today's topic is the divine withdrawal, God's silence as a response to a human crisis in Yeats poetry. So, today we will discuss about the Yeats poetry, the second coming. It was written in 1919. This is my academic details and presentation details. This is the table of content which on I will present today. This is my research question that in the poem The Second Coming, is God silent because he has abandoned humans, or is it because the universe moves in a giant mechanical cycle that human cannot change? My hypothesis is I believed that Yet does not see God's silence as a bad thing or a proof that God isn't real. Instead, he sees it like a clock, just as a clock must move from one hour to the next. Yet believes history moves in giant spiral called gyre. When the spiral gets too wide, the center cannot hold the human, and human lose touch with the divine. Therefore, the silence isn't a choice by God. It is just a natural part of how the universe works. So, who built the house of one who built the sky? This is from our Gujarati Kavi named Kavi Dulabhaya Kag that I have taken this quote from. That Akash ne ઘડનારના ઘરને ઘડા કોણે હશે. This is quote from there, and I have compared this with the Yeats poetry, that there is a God silence, and in this we can see that what God has created in this world and the transformation from what He has created, and we want to see what he has created and how. The silence that defends Yeats' poem emerges in World War's vague civilization, demanding theological reckoning. Central inquiry: when civilization fractures, does God withdraws? Like here we can see the question that who has built this house, the question on God's existence. On other side, the yet question the God silence, why God is silent even though there are so many chaos going into this world. And there he Dulabhai get the quote that Brahmand ma bhatki rahi ante mati atki rahi, that the idea of God, I have tried to find it, but I have no answer of it. That's why I have stopped to think about it. And the yet told that there is a silence in God, and I have no answer. Does God exist or not? I cannot say truly. The left zone, mythical and poetic, yet divine absence as a cosmic cycle. The gyre, current age, structurally beyond divine redemption. Central zone, scientific and atheist. The simplest explanation is that there is no God. Laws of physics preclude a creator. Right zone, philosophical and skeptical. Belief must rest on rational ground. The first cause argument collapse. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Here background you can see the picture of gyre. Gyre, when you can connect it with the WB Yeats poem, like there is a mention of gyre, widening gyre. Here I have mentioned that the falcon cannot hear the falconer, so divine human convent. The gyre at its terminal edge, past and the point of divine correction. Mere anarchy, the anthropic residue, the collapse order, bloom dim tide, oceanic systematic violence, structure abandonment, creamery of innocence, down ritual no longer affections. Like here we can see the God's part in the word, that why God is not there even though there is so much bloodshed, and why our as a human we cannot hear the God's voice, like Jesus says love thy neighbor. Why we cannot follow his path? The widening gyre, a cosmology of abandonment, a vision, history as a interlocking gyre, each age spiral unique central despairs. Current gyre at a maximum expansion, greatest disorder before a counter gyre. The divine structurally locked out of this historical moment. Temporal theism, God existence at a cycle of other and crisis of timing, no, not theology. Here we can see that the gyre, as I explained in the first slide, that gyre is a thing which narrow from its beginning, and it is widening from its end. Like we can see that at the end it cannot hold its center, that's why it become broader, and then it loses control from the gyre. The god existence. What does silence say about God? Is omnipotent. God witnesses suffering without intervention. The theological implication are served. The first cause argument regress. Infinite divine benevolence collapses under atrocity. I cannot feel the Christ stand quite as high as some other men. No to history, moral relation. The blood dimmed tide, extra, exactly the suffering that constitute evidence against the benevolent intervening God. Silence is equal to evidence against God versus silence is equal to structural absence, a crucial distinction. Like in the war, there is a God is silent because if there is a God, here Yeats says that if there is a God, he has do something. Like there are so many wars happening in our current situation, like Israel versus Iran and America attacking the Iran, uh, Hamas and Israel. There are so many wars are going on. Even though the God is silent, if God is there, then why he is silent? Silent. Is there anything is happening to the world? Is there new beginning will come? There is no God. Science and the self-sufficient universe, law of the nature, gravity, thermodynamic, quantum mechanism, sufficient to explain the universe without a creator. Here we can see that the first argument is about there is no God, there is only science, quantum mechanics, and all that. We are created because of the Big Bang. There is a theory of science, the theory of evolution, Charles Darwin, that we are came from the apes, the monkeys. Who built this house? Of the one who built the sky? Here is the question from the Cox poetry. Who builds this house? I don't know who built this house and why and how builds he house. And here we can see the question like why God is silent. Yeah, even though there are so many wars are going on, so many people are killed by others. Why God is silent? Series design system. What rough beast in our come round at last, slow towards Bethlehem to be born. This is the quote or the line from the WB's poetry. Slochis mean anti-messianic verb, no divine stride, only bestial indifferent crawl. The Sphinx, blank and the pitiless, gaze echoes divine, indifferent to the human suffering. The rough beast, the mechanical, next phase of the gyre, terrifying because impersonal. Like here we can see the image of the rough beast. How? What is that rough beast? Rough beast is like a lion face. I have put the image of the Egyptian statue that there is a rough beast face as a lion and body as a human. That beast is emerging from because of this war and because of the god silence. Mysticism as a method, why yet refuses scientific silence, yet committed occult occultist theopitis hermetic order to the golden dawn. Mysticism as a rigorous epistemology, not irrational sentiment. The unanswered theology, divine silence as a moral failure. Theodicy reconciled God's godness with the suffering is the theological wound at the heart of the poem. The silence is the answer. Surely some revelation is at the hand. The gaze blank, the pitiless as the sun, moving it slowly tight. This is the quote from W.B.Yeats' poem. Conclusion: the evidence in the slides prove that hypothesis that divine silence in the Yeats' poetry is the mechanical necessity of his gyre cosmology rather than a sign that God has simply abandoned humanity. By viewing history as a series of interlocking spiral that must expand until the center cannot hold, yet shows that the current era of crisis and the bloom dimmed violence is a structural lockout where the divine is temporarily out of the reach. Like we can see the whole poetry of WBS, the second coming, based on a war and why the on the God's silence. Here is my references. Thank you. Is there any question?
So, Aditya, how is the Gujarati poet Kak's view different from its?
So while both poets reach a point where the mind finally halted before the divine, Kak feels contemplative awe, the scared wound, yet on the other hand feels the apocalyptic dread and terror. This is the difference between the both poetry. That like Kag is questioning the divine world and the divine things that God has created, and other side yet is questioning the existence on the God silence. Why God is silent and why He is not doing anything, and why that's why the rough beast will come.
God is silent. Does that mean Ats was atheist?
No. Unlike Stephen Hawking or Richard Dawkins, yet believe in the spiritual reality. He shows silence not as a God non-existence, but as a structural phase where the divine is temporary out of the reach. Here we can see that the God is temporarily out of the war because there is something new is coming. The change will come in the world, like a new beast is emerging which has lion face and a human body. Thank you.